Welcome to another Sacred Mountain Battle Report. Our fictionalized battle today takes place in late 1813 in the aftermath of the Battle of Leipzig, but prior to the lengthy siege of Hamburg. For a little background, Napoleon was on his back foot following his retreat from Moscow in the winter of 1812. The Grand Armée was in a weakened state. He was desperate to hold on to the newly conceived coalition of the Rhine. The Battle of Leipzig was a great conflagration that ultimately ended in the defeat of Napoleon and his most trusted Field Marshal Devoe. Further vexing Napoleon was his loss at the Battle of Vittoria in the Peninsular War, which left the United Kingdom and Spain at the foot of the Pyrenees. Field Marshal Devoe would retreat to the city of Hamburg following the Battle of Leipzig and be the last to surrender to coalition forces, having held out even longer than Napoleon himself. The War of the Sixth Coalition concluded with Napoleon's first exile to Elba. Our battle today is a rearguard action by the retreating Devoe before he retires into the fortress city of Hamburg. Our game has two main objectives, including the two hills bisected by the road here and here, and the towns here. Each building and hill is worth 50 points. The French are deployed already in control of all objectives, and the Allies start nearest to the camera. From left to right, it's Joe's Russians, my British, who weren't actually in this theater, and Byron's Prussians. There's a dense fog in the morning that can clear or worsen throughout the day based on die rolls. As it turns out in our game, though, the fog slowly cleared throughout the day. Here's some cinematic shots. And as you revel in our giant battlefield at our super secret clubhouse, La Maison de Guerre, I'll explain a little bit about our chosen game system. We're using Lasalle version 2 by Sam Mustafa. Briefly, this game uses an economy of momentum tokens which the players expend to perform actions during the turn. Each player receives 1 momentum for every brigade present on the battlefield and 2 more momentum for his camp. In addition, his general may be placed back in the camp for an additional D3 momentum, or he may be placed on the battlefield to perform a specific intervention. More on that later. Initiative exchanges back and forth between when either players pass or because they cause an interruption by performing an action too close to the opponent. Once all momentum of all the players have been spent or everyone passes, the turn is concluded. After calculating your base momentum for each turn by summing your remaining brigades, 4, and your camp, 2, you have the option of adding your general to your momentum pool, D3, with the knowledge that he will not be able to perform any special tasks on the battlefield that turn. I did that here, but only received 1 extra momentum. Then you move on to the skirmish phase. In the skirmish phase, infantry who are either in mass or in line will roll a variable amount of dice based on the skirmish value for that specific nationality or battalion. For each 6 rolled, this sum is your skirmish value. Whoever has the highest skirmish value gets to go first. For every 2 skirmish dice that you beat your by, awards your side with an additional momentum. Here the French beat the Allies by 15-3 with a difference of 12, thus giving them 6 extra momentum. The French, therefore, will activate first. On the left flank, Jason caused an interruption by storming down the hill with his cavalry, and Joe advancing in turn with his infantry and all of his cavalry. I had advanced in the center after they caused an interruption and the return fire via bombardment with Jason. We're seeing that's 1 cannon shooting. You need 4s to hit in general, and they bounce if they're on the same level. So those are 2 hits on that 1st brigade that's astride the road. 1st battalion that's astride the road there, and then he's going to roll for bounce. Now on bounces you need 6s. Got 1 bounce there. Now he has to disrupt my infantry, and these are fairly elite British infantry, and he will need 5s to disrupt. That's the 1st battalion in front. And now for the bounce, no luck for Jason. Here again he's shooting at the cavalry that are still in the field, so that field would obscure any bounces thereafter, but these are actually shooting from elevated position, so they would get a bounce. There's 2 hits on that cavalry, but I believe he failed to disrupt. All those artillery pieces fired at Byron's Uhlans and got 5 hits. To simulate our generals being unable to communicate through the din of battle, our club has devised a means of revealing whether or not you'll be causing an interruptible action simultaneously, and this has sped up our play substantially in club games. This is nearing the end of turn 2. You can see that Jason's infantry are coming in to support the cavalry. That really looks like they bit off maybe a little bit more they can chew, because that's 250 points of Russians versus probably about 150 points of French. And then you can see the entire weight of the British coming in on that center hill, and those cavalry are dangerously close to those unsquared infantry. Whereas, puzzlingly, the other French of John's staying on the hill, not going to garrison the town, and are just setting up a firing line with his artillery batteries. Similarly, all of these cavalry there I believe those are French cavalry, are in a little bit of trouble, being surrounded by the firing squad. Here's turn 2 skirmish. I believe this is 18-8. Here Jason has to make a decision if he's going to square up those infantry there on the right that are facing the cavalry, or what he's going to do. I'm kind of taunting him here.
John? I'm going to slaughter them all.
No, what's your, I mean, you guys have momentum, it's your turn.
Oh, you're wanting us to...
Yeah.
I'm going to get the yellow discs of glory, figure out.
And so these guys have,
Before we do that.
my guy was energetic, and so everybody advanced forward there one base width.
Yeah, my decision.
Okay, what's your decision?
Oh, I gotta go square over there on that side. It seems far, you know.
Yeah.
This was the best decision Jason could have made in a bad situation. Here, John is charging into those Prussian infantry, and they're unprepared, so they're quite weak versus the cavalry, and I'm sure that's a scoop. This is me charging into that French line. His artillery retreated, and I think I killed 2 whole battalions of French there. Here's a cinematic shot. Looks like John pretty much wiped out those infantry, and looks like he is a little scared of those cavalry, and his artillery limbered up. Looks like he's starting to come out of the forest, realizing his dad, Jason, is in trouble, with the British just crushing in the center. This is Joe finishing up his volleys, and we rolled for skirmish for the beginning of turn 3, 6-6 tie. So rolled, we got a 6, they got a 1. Now this is definitely not good for them, because my hussars were able to charge Jason and John on 2 separate unsquared battalions, and of course, you know, they got scooped as a result. Firing all along the line, all along the front here. This is nearing the end of turn 3. You can see these cavalry over there on the right side. This is the view from Byron's camp. That's actually John's French cavalry charging north and Byron's Prussian cavalry charging south. They kind of traded sides there. We're moving the smoke tokens, and this is kind of where the board sits. Russians in green, British in red, Prussians in black. Here is my general dying at the end of turn 3. And this is skirmish, another tie, and another 6-1. We go first. This is Joe charging uphill. I think Jason should have gotten a bonus here. He may not have needed it, though. Or he may have gotten it, I don't know. But because Joe's charging uphill, he should have gotten a bonus. Ooh, that's not good. Looks to me like Joe's probably going to lose this battle. He's got a strength of 5. I keep asking Joe to roll in the field of the camera, but he just won't do it. Jason's doing it quite well. He's a good boy. We like that guy. That's a poor roll. 6. So the strength of that infantry there, the French infantry, is 6, and then he rolled a 2. Joe's strength was 4. He rolled a 1. And if you beat the opponent by, I think, 3 or more, the battalion's just gone. This is nearing the end of turn 4, I believe, and we are just reeling and kind of trying to redress the lines. I go back to march so I can advance onto those hills. You can see he's still barely touching that hill. Jason's just holding on with his fingernails. And as a result of me going into march, not contributing much to skirmish, we lose the skirmish phase 7-6. Here's kind of where the game stands at the end of this turn. We started to realize, or I believe Jason realized, that this beautiful hill with the windmill wasn't actually an objective. The British were pretty much in control of the larger central hill, and were going to wrest control of this smaller hill. And in fact, he was going to withdraw from the hill. This ended up being close to the last turn of the game, but I gave him a little hint that told him that since this was the last turn and I might not be able to scrape them off that hill, that it might be best just to try to hang and
Hey, John.
grab some points.
What do you think is your MVP or least valuable player? Most or least? Or both?
My cavalry did a really good job of disrupting his advance.
I mean, for
And
example, if we had a
I
hill
don't think I fully
like those two,
used it
Yeah.
to my advantage.
I think your French command telling you not to come out of the woods was a bad command.
Yeah, I should have followed my
But I
instincts on
wasn't
that.
going to suggest that. Your instincts were right. If you come out, it would have broken up my infantry totally
this is
different.
like cable
Yeah.
rock.
I could have pushed him off there, maybe
You know, so it's, we can have different kinds
probably
of
would have been able to take him out and then go and help against the English.
Byron, how about you? What was your most and least valuable? Most or least, or both?
My infantry did well, but particularly the 1st Brigade that's still standing out in the open, the one with the flag and the one near the building, they both held up very well.
Jason?
All right, so
Most and
here's
least.
the deal. Before I declare which is best and best, somehow in my lizard brain,
Mm-hmm.
my elite veterans right up here
Uh-huh.
came and says, we're not going to let them take this hill because obviously this hill's valuable.
Very valuable.
But this hill had no
Except
value
it was
whatsoever.
0 victory points.
So all of my strength and all of my everything, so these were like my, even though they murdered a lot of Russians, these were my least valuable. Well, then I find
Right.
absolutely nothing to say it again. But not quite my least valuable, because my least valuable was my general.
Oh, that
when
died.
Turn 2.
Yeah.
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 And so my most valuable, always my cannons, but we had a lot of fog, so we didn't have a lot of ranger cannons.
Joe, most or least?
Probably most, best and worst would be the White Russian Hussars, who I think charged 4 times in a 6-turn game and bounced every time but once
Yeah.
against unformed infantry, among other things. So they were disappointing, but in the end, they saved their honor and they won't get melted to make birdshot.
And I'd have to say mine was first Brigade infantry. They were pretty strong. Although my cavalry did pretty well.
Cavalry bounced a couple times against one of my just guys standing there smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, you guys were smoking cigarettes like the French,
That's
like underneath, right?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, they cool.
This is ridiculous. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Long plays, long time, but you did great.
Did Chris go up? Try to look inside of it though. It makes me dizzy. It's weird. It's like a illusion. Yeah.